What's going on, guys? Jeff with the Motor Mindset channel here. It's a lovely fall day. It's raining, and fall means winter's coming up, and winter means snowmobiling. So, got something. We're gonna do our initial walk around here. This is a 97 Polaris XCR 440 twin, liquid cooled, two-stroke. Obviously, it's got extra 10 suspension. It's got Fox shocks all the way around. Just got it off Facebook Marketplace. Shout out to Mitch, a new subscriber. Thank you for that. A little over 5,000 miles on it. Unfortunately, I haven't heard it run yet because on the second pull, our rope broke. So I think the handles, oh yeah, there's the handle for it. So looks like it's got the proper motor in it. He said he went through the carbs and it's still not running quite right. I think we're going to do a compression test on it and see what we're sitting at. Might have to do a top end. I was looking at this. I don't know if that's the factory can or if that's an aftermarket deal. It looks almost galvanized. So I don't know. I've never owned a 440 before. Looks like everything else is in decent shape. The hood obviously is not original. Should have been red with XCR 440 graphics on it. I don't know what sled this graphics package is off of. Obviously this magenta color isn't correct. Looks like a decent sled overall. Our brakes aren't seized up. Missing the windshield, but they are available. Like I said in my other videos on my Yamaha project, we've got Dennis Kirk about 100 miles from here, and they'll have just about anything I need. It looks pretty straight. It doesn't look like it's been totally bashed or anything. It still has our red skid plate underneath here. Our bumper's straight. A lot of stuff interchanges on these wedge indies, so who knows what's original and what's been switched out. But I'm pretty happy with my purchase overall here. I am going to start looking, see if I can find a red hood. They look really sharp with the original red hood on them and a little short windshield. But this should be a fun little sled to rip around on. Just ride on some trails, do some jumps, some hooligan stuff. So I will bring you back when we get it in queue to work on it here. Just notice it's pretty similar color to the Camry. That's kind of funny. But I will bring it back when we can tackle this project here, get a pull rope on it, get it ready before the snow flies. It's been a couple weeks since I picked this sled up. I did do a little more research. Turns out it is not an XCR. It is just an XC 440. I guess in 97 the XC 440 is basically all the same specifications as a 96 XCR 440. Still got the extra 10, it's got Fox shocks all the way around, but this would have been just about the same motor as a 96. I think I read it's putting out mid to high 80s as far as horsepower goes, so that's still pretty kicking for a 440. Let's do a little closer inspection here. I found something that might do the sled in here. I'm gonna see if I can get it to run first, see what it sounds like. If the motor sounds good, then I'll try to fix this. But this is our trailing arm for our suspension, and the mount is riveted to the tunnel there and up underneath there. And that mount is totally loose. All these rivets are loose. So I don't know what happened, if it got hit or just ridden hard and put away wet. I think all I would have to do is re-rivet those. I might have to go oversized, but that's not a big deal. That's not a priority right now. I want to see if this motor sounds healthy. When I turn it over on the clutch here, it doesn't feel like it's got a ton of compression. So if it runs great, then I'll fix that trailing arm mount. If it needs a top end, I'll probably just end up passing it on to somebody else who's looking for a little bit more of a project. And I'll continue on searching for an XC440 or an XCR440. See what I can find here. But first order of business is we're going to get this recoil housing off, and we're going to try to fish our rope out of there. I don't think I'm going to have to replace the rope. I think what happened was the knot just came untied on the end of the handle because it didn't have any broken piece in the handle when I pulled it over and broke it. So there's 4 bolts that hold this housing on. It also covers the water pump, and it's got our coil mounted to it here. So we've got 1, 2, and then 2 underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and get those loosened up, and then we'll see if we can pop this off. If this was a proper 97 XCR, it would have a Liberty engine in it, which is the American-made 440 twin. This is made by Fuji Heavy Industries. That's what Polaris used for their engines from about exclusively, I suppose, from about 1972 until 97, I suppose. And they switched to their own in-house design. So that's our recoil right there. And I think I can see the end of our rope. And if we're lucky, I won't get to the end of my rope. There we go. So now what I've got to do is I've got to kind of preload the spring, keeping in mind how much slack I need to get up, because the handle itself is on the outside of the hood. You don't have to open up the hood to start it. So I'm going to see roughly how much I need. If I have to cut a little off, that's not the end of the world. Also check our water pump belt tension. The belt looks okay. I'll run it for now. That's just adjusted. We've got kind of an adjustment there. We can clock it and that'll take up the slack. Anyway, I noticed the 2 screws on our coil pack are new. I don't know if that's just because he misplaced them or if this is a different coil pack. If that's a different coil pack, we might have issues, because that's our CDI unit and that's everything. And that'll have a different timing curve depending on the engine. So if it's not off a 440 XCR, it's not going to give us the right timing curve. So something we might want to look into. Let's see. How much do we need here? Just going to do a rough estimate. I'd rather have too much than not enough. That'll probably be good right there. For me, this is more guess and check than it is an actual science. So you have to preload the spring. It's just a big, like a clockwork or clockwise style spring in there that we have to crank, and obviously the more we twist it, the more preload is going to be on it. So, is that the right way? Yeah. There's a notch in our pulley here that rope goes into, so you can preload it like this. So let's try, I don't know, 3 turns maybe. I don't know if you guys can see. 1, 2, 3. That's just a guess. It might not be enough to retract it all the way. Hopefully it's not too much. Now I get to try to poke that rope through. Pull that out. Riveting stuff, I know. I you guys don't need to watch this. I'll bring you back when I get it pulled through and then mount it up here, and then we'll give it a shot and see how we did. We got our cover put back on. That's just with 2 bolts there. I trimmed the end of this rope off here. It was too frayed out. So I'm just going to give that a quick little melt there. One thing I wanted to mention was, if Fuji Heavy Industries sounds familiar, that's because that is the parent company of Subaru. And Subaru's first cars were actually 2-stroke engines. So that's kind of neat. And Subaru built a lot of small 2-stroke stuff. They also built scooters. I don't know if they were ever branded Subaru, or if they were... It might have been branded Fuji. I guess I don't remember. But they did a lot of 2-stroke stuff. I don't think they make 2-strokes anymore, but they do still do industrial stuff like this. Now we have to route our rope through the guides. I'll give you a little better shot here. There we go. There are a couple different guides that the rope goes through, because if you just let it run as a straight shot, there are all sorts of fuel lines and coolant lines and wiring and stuff that eventually it will wear through, such as our ignition coil right there. That was one of them. Coolant line is another one, just that overflow right there, starting to rub on it. So you always want to be really conscious about where that line goes, what it's rubbing on. So before I tie this, I'm going to give it a pull here. That feels like it'll be okay. Might be a little short, but that's alright. When I tie this knot, it's kind of hard to explain, but when I tie it, I always use my thumb to kind of... The way I think of it is kind of folding it inside out. Just kind of fold that knot over, because that way you know it's not gonna fold over and then slip out if it's too close to the end. How does that feel? That's about right. I would have done it maybe, I don't know, 6 inches longer, but that should be just fine. What do you say we put our bolts in, hook our wiring back up, and then maybe give it a shot of gas? Before we get too carried away, how about we check it for spark? I just got one good pull out of it before that rope broke, so I don't technically know if it even has spark. These are our CDI ignition. They don't have ignition points, so if we don't have spark, we'll check all our kill switches, keys, and everything. And once we eliminate those as a problem, we'll probably need a new CDI. I do have the stuff plugged in underneath there, so I'm thinking it'll have spark. I can hear it. Do we have it on both? Ooh. Certainly heard it. It's not great. It's not a fat blue spark like I usually like to see, but it does have it. Let's take some premix, just a little bit down each plug hole. That might even be too much. Just see if it fires. After this, I think we should do a compression test. Not going to bother tightening them up with a wrench. They're not going to fly out in the 10 seconds it'll sit and run. It won't even run that long. It'll probably fire a few times and then burn up all that fuel. I'm going to close the hood because I see that flying down when I yank on this thing anyway. Well, here goes nothing. There's a pop. There's another one. That doesn't sound too bad. We got a few pops out of it. Let's, actually what I'm going to do first is unhook this spring from this hood cable. That'll allow the hood to open a little bit further. Won't be as likely to slam shut when I'm pulling on this thing. That'll be okay. I'm going to get my compression tester, get that hooked up, see what we're sitting at on both sides. Wish you guys had smell-o-vision. That exhaust smells so good. I don't know what kind of oil is in the injection tank, but it smells like winter. We're going to do our right side first. When you do a compression test, you want to hold the throttle wide open. When I do them on stuff like this, normally I will leave the spark plugs out of the other cylinders just to take away as much resistance as you can to really spin the thing up and see what you can get out of it. So I've also got my kill switch turned off in case you arc a spark plug wire against anything. We shouldn't, but just in case, have that off. And give it half a dozen or so pulls, and then we'll see what our number is here. Okay. That's sitting right... We'll call that 105. $110. 105 and 110, you want to be within 10 pounds of each other. The number itself doesn't necessarily matter if it's above about 100. More so what matters is that they are within about 10 pounds of each other. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to put a little oil down each plug hole and try it again just to see. Because what the oil does is that'll coat the cylinder walls, and if the rings are bad, if that's what's going on, it'll seal up those rings a little better and we'll get a higher number. So I'm going to dump a little oil down each plug hole, and then just for the heck of it, we'll try it again. Just have a little motor oil down each plug hole here. Give it another shot. Yeah, that brought our mag side up to about 115. PTO side is about 115 as well. So PTO side didn't go up, mag side did a little bit. That could just be worn out rings. If this is the original engine and it's never been gone through 5,000 miles, is getting towards the end of its life. It is a pretty high performance engine. So in the future we'll probably end up doing a top end in it. But for now, I think I'll just run it. And it has been sitting a while, so it might, those numbers might come up the more it runs. Maybe the rings are just a little gummed up or something. But that's good. I was afraid that there might be a hole in a piston or a cracked ring or something like that where we had, 60 pounds on one side or something like that. But I would suspect the more I run it, the more that number is going to come up. Ideally, I'd want to see 120 to 125 per side. But, I'm not racing the thing. It'll be fine. So, moving on, what do we want to do? Previous owner said he went through the carbs. And it still wasn't running right. He also said, put a little lube on the primary clutch. I don't know if you guys, here, I'll see if I can give you a better camera shot without dropping you. Get our belt guard out of the way. This is our primary clutch, this is our secondary clutch. Primary clutch, as the RPMs increase, the sheaves get closer together, they're tapered. As they get closer together, it changes the gear ratio. This one works the opposite, where the faster you go, basically, this one will open up. So you have a larger diameter and a smaller diameter, and that's how you get your gear ratio. It's like a CVT transmission, basically. So there aren't any gears like a motorcycle or anything like that. It's like a scooter or a golf cart, anything like that. Or a lot of modern cars even have the same idea. But previous owner said the clutch was a little sticky, so he lubed it, and that's something that I don't recommend doing. With something like this, you're going to want to take it apart, clean it the best you can, and put it together dry. Maybe a little bit of graphite on the weights, on the pivots themselves. But the problem with lube is lube attracts dust, and these belts do put out a lot of dust as they wear. And you don't want anything that's going to attract anything like that, because then that's just going to make your problem worse. It's going to compound any issue you might have. And then there's a spring in the middle that holds it out. And what it does is there are weights in there that fly out with centrifugal force that counteract that spring. So you can tune these clutches pretty much infinitely with the weights, how heavy they are, and the stiffness of the spring. The stiffness of the spring will tell you, or will set the initial clutch engagement. So you might, this is a blue spring with a white stripe, it looks like, or maybe it's just blue. But that's probably a pretty high performance spring. I'm guessing the engine doesn't actually, or the sled won't start moving until probably 4,400 RPMs, which is pretty high. That's something that's going to be a little challenging to ride on the trails, because you won't be able to really idle along nicely. But I'm rambling here. What do you say we dump some gas in it and see if we can get it to idle? The previous owner said he drained the gas out of it. I put about a gallon in. I don't know how long you guys are going to want to watch me sit and pull on this thing until it starts. But maybe we'll get it primed and it'll go pretty quickly here. These actually have a fuel pump, a vacuum operated fuel pump to draw fuel from the tank. It's not a gravity feed system, so I guess we've got our choke all the way on, keys on, kill switch is on. Let's give it a few pulls here and see if it'll go. You guys getting tired yet? Looks like we're starting to get fuel up into the carbs. I don't know if he drained the bowls or if he just drained the gas tank. What's going on down here? These actually have float bowl drains on them. Okay. Cool. Well, I'll keep pulling on it here. Try not to crash into anything. How about we dump some fuel in the plug holes? It's all primed now, so hopefully it'll go and then run long enough to draw that fuel up into the carbs and fill those float bowls. I don't even know if I'll have to pull those carbs apart. It's sitting, it's idling, it sounds good. I am running premix in it right now. I'm not sure if the oiler's working. I always do that just as a precaution. It doesn't sound bad. Idling at about 1400 RPMs. I would say the oil injection is working. It is pretty smoky in here. Have high beam, low beam, brake light, tail light. It does seem a little boggy, so maybe we'll end up pulling those carbs apart. I don't want to do that until we actually get some snow, and maybe I'll have a chance to ride it, see what it feels like under load. I could put a jack stand underneath the bumper and really run it out here, but I don't want to smoke out the shop too bad. But it sounds decent. That clutch engages at about 4,000, which is okay. I might put a little stiffer spring in it. And the other thing about those springs too is over time they do wear out. They do lose their tension. So even putting the same spring in but a new version of it would probably improve it quite a bit. But it's so tough to say until I could actually get out and ride it a little bit, see what it feels like. But I'm going to consider that a win. I think next we're going to try to fix that trailing arm mount and maybe get a windshield ordered for it and go from there. But it seems like it'll be a good rider. It's not going to win any contests since it's as ugly as it is. But no, I think I got a good deal here. I'm happy with it. Alright, I think I'm going to wrap it up for this video. I just wanted to do a just a little walkthrough and see if it would run, see what I need. Doing a little closer looking at the shocks, at the suspension here. They are Fox shocks, they are rebuildable, and I have a guy who will be able to do that. So I'll probably end up pulling those shocks out. I'm also missing the sway bar in the front. I'm not sure why anybody would have pulled that out, but I'll probably have to try to track one of those down. And then we have to fix our trailing arm mount too. But that'll come at a later date. I can't really do a lot of work to the sled until I can test it out on the snow, and we don't have any of that yet. So until next time, if you like the video, please comment and subscribe. Give me the thumbs up. Give me all that stuff. If you need to get a hold of me, the email is motormindset1@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.